Hey guys, and welcome back to The Ramble. I am your humble host, Maria Legier, fueled by caffeine, testosterone, and hopelessness. This is synthetic. I have never been particularly fond of electronic music. Obviously, this should also tell you that I know next to nothing about it. Don't listen, don't much care. That's just the way it is. It seems monotonous, dull, and lifeless to me, and always has. And this is not to say that I believe the people making electronic music are talentless hacks. Far from it, in fact. I am absolutely certain that there are more than a few artists making electronic music who are damned good composers and damned good at what they do. To dismiss them as talentless is quite contrary to what I think about electronic music. The talent is more than likely present. It just boils down to my own preference and my own tastes, which do not include electronic music. As it is with all things, there are exceptions to the rule. To me, there is a certain place where the borders between electronic and regular good old-fashioned analog music is blurred. Music that incorporates electronic elements I can stomach, some more than others. I'm looking at you, Pink Floyd. What I cannot stomach is music that is purely electronic. I mentioned this to my wife some time back. She finds herself in the remarkable position of being able to enjoy electronic music, so that when I came with my usual spiel that it feels lifeless and dull and monotonous and all that other stuff, she immediately replied something along the lines that I tend to listen to this sort of tribal music, consisting more or less of just a few guys pounding drums in a monotonous and rhythmic manner, meant to elicit some type of altered consciousness, a dreamlike, trance-like state, sort of invoking all manner of thoughts and ideas about shamanic journeys into the underworld, or just daydreaming. Whatever. The same could be said for electronica, she continued. Well, parts of it at least. What are raves, she inquired, but the same sort of ritualistic dancing, the same trance-like escape into a higher consciousness, which we have been doing for as long as we've been able to bang two pieces of wood together and refer to it as music. There is a sense of oneness, of togetherness at these raves, which may very well reach all the way back to our tribal ancestors dancing for rain or good hunting or some other shamanic or ritualistic something or other, be that with or without drugs, though, as I have come to understand it, preferably with. Raves, then, is not too far removed from that type of ritualistic use of rhythm, dancing and higher states of consciousness, with or without drugs, though preferably with. Begrudgingly, I had to admit that she'd got me there. Now, my musical tastes are all over the goddamned place. I will listen to and enjoy just about anything. From simplistic stripped-down old-timey country music to the meanest, rawest and angriest grindcore. From overblown 70s progressive rock to barely coherent three-chord punk rock. In other words, it is rather strange that I struggle so much with this particular style of music. So, some 2 years after my wife got me thinking about this whole thing, I believe I have an answer to why I don't much enjoy it, when I am more than capable of enjoying its analog counterpart. As these things usually go, the reason is a simple one. It just feels way too goddamned perfect. And that's it. Still, and of course, this is from the perspective of someone who knows very little about electronic music. So keep that in mind. My reasoning may, of course, be completely wrong on the basis of just not knowing what the hell I'm talking about. One of the reasons why I hold Neil Young, say, in such high regard as I do is because his music is incredibly unpolished. It is pretty fucking far from being perfect, particularly when he plays with Crazy Horse. The drummer misses beats left, right and center, the guitar is strange and fuzzy, it is atonal and just plain weird. And half the time I'm not even sure they're all playing the same song, though, to be fair, this thought probably goes through the heads of Crazy Horse as well. And Neil's vocals are, well, Neil's vocals. And on. And on. In short, it is human through and through. It is flawed and imperfect and unpolished. And that is what makes it feel and sound so fantastically, wonderfully alive, which incidentally might explain my love of punk rock as well. Not the pop-punk stuff that spawned in the mischievous murk that was the 90s, clothed in heroin and swathed in the alluring blanket of painted-on cynicism as it was, but the grimy, ugly, snaring and really fucking angry stuff. In my way of thinking, when a piece of art becomes too polished and too perfect, it becomes just that, too polished and too perfect. The human element seems removed from it, and the whole thing feels synthetic and fake, a product of machinery, robots, cogs and wheels, and not the hand of a human being. as though there is some strange uncanny valley thing going on. All this is, of course, according to my own aesthetic sensibilities, which lies somewhere between 18th century crackpot artist and Hunter Thompson. Make of that what you will. And this is also how I think in regards to the phenomenally pestilent utopia which the social justice hive mind will attempt to erect upon the ashes of whatever fascist state they imagine they find themselves in. Emphasis, of course, on the word imagine. So it flows from the same source, an odd and deep-seated dread that what makes us human will be erased in the hallowed quest for perfection and purity, in this case ideological purity. A utopia must, by necessity, be dystopian. The human element is completely removed if society is to be perfect. In order for a utopia to function, every single individual within said utopia must think, feel, act, believe and behave in the exact same manner. No deviations from the norm can be acceptable, as that would beat things straight out of balance and out of tune. And this, I believe, can never be accomplished with anything but force. And then, it is not voluntary. It becomes mandatory. Peek beyond the layer of any utopia, and you will see a dystopia. The drummer from Crazy Horse will miss a beat and the whole utopian society will shiver, tumble and fall down. All must dance to the same pipe and move to the same beat. Undesirables must be purged. One must conform, or else feel the wrath of the uncanny valley murder dolls, those who are deemed to be pure and perfect in thought and in speech and in action. One must become synthetic, prefabricated, molded and manufactured in a manner even worse than today. The whole of society must become synthetic, molded and manufactured by the hands and thoughts that govern all, that must govern all, in minute detail. For a society to be completely perfect, all that is imperfect must be removed. And that which is imperfect is humanity, is the human element. The perfect society cannot exist without being an imperfect one. That is, one in which individual freedom is completely and utterly forgotten, neglected and banished. For the cause of the common good, of course, and as expected, is not decided by the commoners. It is decided that these people don't matter because they don't know what is best for them. I do not have high hopes for our future at present. Cancel culture, you see, is very, very real. All thoughts and opinions that deviate from the accepted script is stolen away through the might and awesome influence of the right thinkers, the New Age Puritans. Purged, one could say, thrown to the dustbins and then lit on fire by threats and demands and even more threats. A loss of this and a loss of that. Did you say something that could be construed as remotely offensive to the dogma on Twitter? The mob will contact your place of employment and get you fired, or at the very least attempt to do so. Then the shaming begins, then the smearing commences. The state of things is a state of upheaval and collapse. Fear governs, the fear of social shame and ridicule. Character assassination is in vogue and the laughingstocks are back. The free thinkers of our day and age put in their place and pelted with rotten fruits and vegetables. Ridiculed, humiliated and shunned. Hell hath no fury, like an orthodoxy scorned. And people are hung, drawn and quartered in the news media and on social media for daring to oppose the orthodoxy. Remember the young woman ridiculed on mainstream media for enjoying her life as a housewife? Pepperidge Farm remembers. For being, in essence, free thinkers, people are ostracized. Nothing ever changes. Round and round it goes, and we never fucking learn. Though they are not executed, people are unpersoned and deplatformed. The only reason given for the unpersoning and the deplatforming being vague and obscure references to hate speech. And hate speech, I have come to understand, is as it always is with things of this nature. Whatever is convenient at the moment in order to shut something down and put it away. Out of sight and out of mind. Far out. Buried and forgotten. So that the upstanding citizens, the righteous and moral and pure aristocracy, can be free to cavort in joyous celebration of their brave new world, without a need to acknowledge that the plebs and the peasants are people too. Commoners? Bah! I fart in their general direction. If one does not submit, one will be forced to submit. If one does not apologize, one will be forced to apologize. Otherwise, One is unpersoned. The mob has spoken, and the mob is robotic, synthetic, of one mind and of one voice. Apparently and supposedly completely and utterly perfect and flawless, just as everyone else ought to be. In perceiving themselves, or rather in perceiving their beliefs as perfect and flawless, there is no room for error. To err, as the saying goes, is human. The error lies outside and everything is someone else's fault. Everyone else is flawed and is at fault. And so is the system, which is something I tend to agree with. The system is deeply flawed, but not for the reasons these grimy gremlins believe that it is. Au contraire, I would say. As it is completely and utterly impossible to be perfect, or to create something perfect within the limited ability of human thoughts and deeds, a perfect society cannot exist, and those that try to build it will fall into the fires of the mob themselves as their own perfect purity is called into question. Little by little, and piece by piece, it is happening. And still, the drummer from Crazy Horse will miss the beat, and it will be gorgeous due to its phenomenal imperfection. And that, I think, is that for this ramble. I hope you enjoyed it more than my previous ramblings. Thank you very much for listening. Please check out the links down below, and I'll catch you next time. This is Moreologier, signing off.